Hello, folks. Dustin Zarni here, Democratic Elections Commissioner, Onondaga County. And welcome to Commissioner in a Car. It is Tuesday. I'm back on my Tuesday schedules. I've been kind of playing around with how I'm releasing my content and trying to get caught up, to be quite honest. And I thought there was a way to do that by juggling when I'm releasing days, but really at the end of the day, that's just not how it is. So I'm back on my Tuesday release for Commissioner in a Car, Friday releases for Zoom with Zarni, and on the weekend releasing Weekly Wonk. And I hope you'll enjoy all of those. But today we're talking about designating petitions, and that is, in what we know about the general election and primary elections coming up in Onondaga County and throughout New York. So designating petitions are how we actually put candidates on the ballot in New York. There's a couple other ways by state committee and by caucuses in certain towns. But for the most part, designating petitions, where you go door to door, get people to sign off on a petition, and you got to get so many thousand signatures, 500 signatures, depending on what office you're running for. That's how we put candidates on the ballot. So this week, actually last week, April 1st through the 4th, was our designating petition week. It also happened to be our presidential primary. But that was our designating petition week. And so it's been very busy at the board getting designating petitions in. Luckily this year, a lot of those designating petitions went up to the state board, because if a race crosses county lines, like the Senate races, the congressional races, the state Senate, the U.S. Senate, and the congressional races in a couple of the assembly districts in Onondaga County, cross county lines to get filed up at the state board and not here at the local county boards. But those designating petitions are in. And we've actually, yesterday was the last day to decline or accept these petitions. So now we have a really good feel about what the offices are that are going to be on the ballot for both the June primary on June 25th and the general election. So what we have is races on, there are some uncontested races where only one party has put in petitions. There are contested races where both parties put in petitions, and then there's intra-party contested races for primaries. Let's start with the primaries. We know that there will be a Democratic primary for New York 22. Those primaries are, right now there are 3 candidates: John Mannion, Sarah Clee Hood, and Clem Harris. Now, all of these petitions, even though they're in, they can go through what's called the challenge process. So it's possible that maybe one of these candidates might fall off. But assuming that everything that's in today is in, that is who the Democratic primary is for Congress. And then there is also a Democratic primary for the New York Senate District 50. This is actually John Mannion's old district. He's left that to run for Congress, leaving an open seat. And Chris Ryan, and who's the minority leader of the Onondaga County Legislature, and Tom John, a former Oswego County legislator, have filed petitions to run in the Democratic primary for that district. And then we have one other primary that we know of right now, a Republican primary in Senate District 48. Now, New York Senate District 48 is Rachel May's seat, and there's a Republican primary between Caleb Slater and Fannie Villarreal. So those are the primaries that that petitions have been put in, and we're fairly confident are going to result in, primaries on the June 25th ballot. But we also kind of know what the general elections are, and I'm going to highlight some of the races that we're going to have competitive races for that are outside of the primaries. Because all of those primary races will eventually become general election races. The congressional race, the incumbent is Brandon Williams. He's the only one on the Republican side. Whoever wins the Democratic primary will be going up against Brandon Williams. on the Senate side, there is no incumbent in Senate District 50, although the Republican is Nick Parro. So whoever wins the Democratic primary will face Nick Parro for that seat. And in Senate District 48, Rachel May is the incumbent. So we know that those are going to be general election contests. We also have general election contests in 3 out of the 4 assembly districts. Assembly District 126, which is currently held by a Republican. Ian Phillips is the only Democratic candidate to file petitions. He'll be running against him in the fall. And then in 127th, Al Sturpey will face a Republican challenger. Al Sturpey is a Democratic incumbent. There's a Republican challenger. I believe Tim Kelly is the name. And in the 128th, which is Pam Hunter, is the incumbent. Dan Ciccarelli is taking another run at unseating her. He's a Republican from Salina. So those 3 assembly races are also going to have general election races. Most notably, Bill Magnarelli in the 129th does not have a Republican or Democratic opponent, and will all in likelihood move on to have another term in the assembly. We then have races inside the towns. These are races that are to fill vacancies. As you know, there's a big talk about moving elections to even years. Well, that hasn't happened yet. Won't happen until 26. But sometimes there are town races in even years if somebody leaves an office early, like town justice or stuff like that. So there's a few of those races out there. What we know is that there will be a competitive race in Lysander for town council. There's Democrats have they put in petitions and will be substituting the candidate, and we'll have a candidate later this week. So we know there's going to be a race there. Ironically, in the manliest town council, the Democrats have put in a candidate, and the Republicans, this is a to-fill vacancy created by Heather Waters leaving. The Republicans have not and will not be putting in a candidate. So that's that. There's also a family court position. It's a countywide position. It's a newly created family court position, so there's no incumbent. And Christina Albiati is the Democratic candidate going against Jason Ziegler, the Republican candidate. You may have heard Jason Ziegler's name several times. He's run for several different city court and other positions unsuccessfully on the Republican side. And, Democrats have actually done pretty well countywide for family court. We own all of the family court positions so far. By sweeping last year, we cemented that. There was 2 that were opened up last year, and we won on both of those. So we will have all 4 family court positions that we are competing in as well. And then finally, there are some other town races, such as Marcellus has a town councilor, Clay has a town councilor, Cicero has a town justice, Onondaga has a town justice, that the Democrats won't fill those offices until they caucus, which is later in July. So, so we don't know whether there's going to be Democratic races there. We assume that there will be the Democratic candidates, but they have a little more time to find those candidates. And at the end of July, when we do a caucus wrap-up, I will let you know who the races are there. So that's the election. So as I said, there's an objection period going on right now. Some of these candidates have had their petitions objected to, and they will have to survive those objections to be able to become candidates for those offices. So, but, we'll wait and see what happens there. Most of those objections are not done at the Onondaga County Board of Elections this year. They're the ones done at state board. So I don't really even have much to say about it because I haven't seen them. I haven't looked at them. I wouldn't say anything about it anyways because I'd be the judge if it was at my board. So, but people do get thrown off the ballot every year for not following the rules. A lot of times, instead of going door to door, people stand on corners and ask people to say whether they're a Democrat or not, and that's an unreliable way of getting on the ballot. Excuse me. Sorry, just had my Mark Rubio taking a sip of drink moment here. But so we still have some uncertainty of who the candidates are, but we kind of see the big races, especially the primaries for June 25th. We are still wrapping up the presidential primary. That was April 2nd. We are now in the middle of wrapping that up, and we're hopefully going to have that done by Monday. Actually, we will. We have to be certified by Monday. We did our final scan of absentees today for all the absentees and affidavits that were ruled valid. We should have an updated total on our website's unofficial totals tomorrow. But of course, there's nothing really in the, in the mix here. We know Joe Biden and Donald Trump won their primaries in New York. It was overwhelming, and there's really not much to say about that, and especially in Onondaga County. But we're still going through that, and I will start looking back at that primary starting this weekend with early voting and absentee balloting in the New York primary. Or in the presidential primary here in Onondaga County. And there's some interesting things in there, even with a race that was not really contested. So you can check that out when I release that this weekend. That's really all I got for Commissioner Carr. I wanted to give you an update of who we believe are the races this year, and the process going forward. I have, in addition to my weekly wonk releasing this weekend on Friday, I'll be talking to Karen Wharton of Citizen Action in my Zoom with Zarni, and we'll be talking about, the public campaign finance system, which is launching right now. And now that we have candidates that are actually running for office, there's a good wrinkle of how this campaign finance system, the public campaign finance system, has brought maybe a little bit more competitiveness to New York elections. So check that out. And remember, you can go to DustinZarni.com and get an update. Every time I post on there, whether it's an article or content related, it's something that I do on my own with my own money. I never take any money for it. I never get sponsorships or ads, or never have subscriber fees. It's just something I do. It's my public information campaign for Onondaga County in this very busy presidential year. So thank you very much for tuning in to Commissioner in a Car, and I hope to see you out at the polling places this year. And remember, June 25th primary, Democrats all over the county, and Republicans in about half the county will have choices this June 25th. Thank you very much, and enjoy your day. Bye-bye.